Okay, welcome everyone to our webinar on automation and customer experience. Before jumping into the content, I would like to do a quick sound check. So if you could all feel the poll which is showing up and indicating whether you can hear us fine or not, that's really appreciated. All right, thanks a lot for filling this out, and now let's get started. So before jumping into discussing this, maybe a quick introduction. Myself, my name is Niklas Wessel. I'm a senior product manager at Freshworks in our Berlin office. Freshworks, for those who don't know, it's a global company which does all sorts of like SaaS software along the customer journey, marketing automation, sales, customer support. And today we're going to talk about how customer experience automation can earn and build customer loyalty. And I think this is a super interesting topic because usually automation is treated from an angle of how can I make my service reps more efficient? How can I make their life a little bit easier? How can I scale my organization? But it's rarely seen from a customer perspective, right? There's a lot of companies who are actually afraid of what happens to my brand experience if I'm automating too much. And this is a topic we're going to tackle today with a great set of panelists. We're going to look at this problem statement from different angles. You see the logos here. We have Aircall, OB41, PySync, and Zenloop here. I'll now hand over to my other panelists for a quick introduction. Andre, if you could take over.
Thank you. So Andre here is speaking for Aircall. So I'm director of sales here at Aircall, and I've joined the company when we were only just a few employees, and I've seen the whole scale today to reach more than 300 today. Aircall, for those of you who don't know the Aircall, we're a cloud-based phone system which very much focuses on integrating with all of the softwares in the SaaS ecosystem, therefore making each phone call much more than just being heard and being able to speak, but making each phone call a moment where you get some value out of it, you get some data out of it, and you have it, all of it logged wherever you want in your different softwares.
Thank you, Andre. I'll take over from here. My name is Alexander de Ruiter. I am the CEO and a co-founder of OB41. OB41 is a Dutch-based company with about 65 employees, where we specialize in customer engagement solutions, and over the last year really focused on automating those conversations. And of course, that is something that we're going to talk about today, and how this improves customer satisfaction.
Okay. I'm Morgan McCabe. I'm the Director of Partnerships at PySync. And for you guys who don't know PySync, we're based in Ghent, Belgium, but the majority of our integrations, 200 plus, are all over the world. So from the US to Paris with Aircall and so on. We integrate with all different SaaS applications, and every Wednesday we add a new integration to our list of supported apps. So I've been with the company for about 3 years, and excited to be on this panel with the rest of the guys here.
Great. My name is Felix, head of sales at Zenloop. We are Berlin based, and Zenloop is a customer experience management platform. And what we do is helping companies to understand and improve the customer experience at every single touch point in a customer journey and build up a very loyal customer base.
Yeah, nice. Thanks all for these quick introductions. And now coming a bit to the agenda of our webinar today. So we have a broad topic of automation on the plate today. How I sort of hear from that from a lot of customers, already talked about that in the beginning, is often it starts with that notion of agent productivity. How can I automate a couple of the more mundane workflows? Becomes a more pressing topic when the company is scaling a lot, because typically Typically, you don't want to scale your support staff one-to-one with your company growth, right? So you're always looking on how can I rethink my processes? What are some of the tools I need to actually reach that 10x growth without having my my staff. What we're seeing more and more in the market is as well that notion of proactive engagement. You're gathering more and more data on customers. How do you actually use that data? And that can completely turn around the support conversation. Instead of the customer having to reach out to you and complain about problems, if you can actually one sort of getting in touch with the customer and proactively notifying them about certain issues, that's really making a big change in the experience of the customer. But that's you can only do if you have automation in place, right? But that whole block of agent productivity, scalability, proactive engagement, the ultimate goal should be to create good, effortless customer experience, right? Because even if you have the most productive support or sales reps, if the customer isn't happy with the experience they're receiving, they won't be loyal customers. They won't stay on for life. So today's discussion is really centered around the fact, how can we leverage all these different Lego pieces in building a good experience for customers? And I would like to kick off and maybe giving that question to Andre from Aircall. I think phone has been around forever as a channel, right? And everyone is super familiar with it based on personal use. So how do you bring automation and good customer experience into a channel like that? Can you help answer that question?
Yep, sure. I think it's true. When you have any interaction with your customers, you basically don't want them to see that you're repeating information. You're asking them to repeat information. You basically want them to feel like you're aware exactly of what was the previous interaction they had with yourself. And for me, the real key behind having this flow of information, this seamless flow of information, is integrations between the different softwares. So the right way of automating your customer service for me is to make sure, depending on the channels that you're using, whether it be phone, with Aircall or any other softwares, or chat or email, that you're actually making sure that whenever you're going to interact with a customer, you have access immediately to the previous interactions that the rest maybe of your team had with this single customer. So if I were to focus here, your question was on the phone and the how this has still become a big channel of for customer service. The reality is, when you think of an integration between a phone system like Aircall and the CRM, is you expect that when you're going to receive a call, that we're going to be able to bring up right in front of you, when you're receiving the call, all of the previous information of the caller. Okay, so whether it be the last email he sent, whether it be some specific tag for this customer, is this a VIP customer calling? Is this a customer from a specific set which is on beta or whatever? You want to have access to this information to take the call. And that's been confirmed by several surveys. And on this slide, we see one here, is that today still, on a 6 minutes call, 75% of the time is devoted to agents doing manual research. Why this is the case? It's because they're receiving a call, they're having somebody shout at them or saying a lot of stuff at them, and this then creates kind of like an anxious moment where they'll have to go to their different softwares, and we all use lots of different SaaS softwares, and they'll have to start searching for it. So if with an integration, a nicely built integration, you're able to bring up the information right in front of the agent, then you are helping your whole customer experience very much.
Yeah, super interesting. And I think this is also something we'll come back to a bit later, right? When Morgan talks about these automations which can sort of like, platforms which can automate that type of information exchange to ensure all of these are like updated at the same time. So, and then how do you leverage that sort of from a customer experience standpoint, right? You talked a lot about how you're making the agent life easier. what is the, how can you actually leverage the data to create a better customer experience?
Yep. Well, for me, on the phone aspect, you're going to be receiving basically at each call a lot of data. Of course, we always think of who answered the call, maybe who just called. So that's 2 data points, but there are so many others. The call recording of the call duration, maybe a tag, a specific tag that you left on the call, the call notes that you've taken, and all of this data that you add during the call, that gets added during the call. The whole point is that it gets logged into the main tool that you use to leverage your data. So whether it be your CRM or it could be your BI tool, you actually want your phone calls and every data related to your phone call to be associated in a field and then be usable in reports and cross-matched with other information from your CRM or your help desk. Yep. If I were to add one thing to this, it's true that today, if there is somehow a tendency to want to automate a lot of stuff on the phone and try to avoid having a human interaction when somebody receives a call, and try and filter as much as possible. From the research that we've done and from several different other research that we've actually sourced, we found that still today there are so many innovations in smart IVRs, interactive voice response, asking you several types of information when you're calling in, that you could think that you could actually collect all of this data and use it, whereas what we've realized and end up seeing is that the data that you get from when you're actually speaking to a person is actually much more accurate. And the good news is that from the research we've seen is that when somebody reaches out through the phone, they still very much expect to talk to a human person. Very often they're actually quite pissed off by the IVRs which are in place. So what I think it's all about finding the right balance. It's all about, hey, you want actually, of course, your customers to give you some accurate data, but trust first your customer experience that you're going to offer them, and go and talk to them, and you'll collect some accurate data.
Makes perfect. And I think from my perspective, just as a consumer, right, I think there are certain industries where I really just want to talk, right? Let's take banking, for example, right? I think there I just want to have another person on the other side talking to me, and don't feel too comfortable like having all of that outsourced to an automation and artificial intelligence.
Yep.
Morgan, want to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, on the same note, I find it so frustrating when I cannot find a phone number. I a lot of times will go to a chat if there's a chat box, and I'll start there. But a lot of times I want to just pick up the phone and talk to someone. And I see more and more companies taking phone numbers off their sites. Do you see that now that they're realizing they've taken it off, it's hurting the NPS and they're adding it back? Or how do you see, phone,
that's a great question here, and I feel like today the phone was often very much the only channel when it came to urgency. Somebody wanted something, you came to urgency. Now the chat has been developed, and that's great. I'm a strong believer in chat, and I think the two coexist very well. But what we still see is that people will still want to pick up the phone and call and reach out to a company when there is a certain sentiment of urgency, but also a certain sentiment of, I want to actually resolve my issue fast. I want to speak to somebody and make sure that he's going to understand what's the pain that I'm having today, and I want a fast resolution. So that is true, something that we've seen. Whether it be on the urgency, chat and phone are definitely very, very strong. But when it comes to actually resolution, we've actually seen that this is where phone can be much more efficient while you're actually talking to somebody who understands your pain.
Yeah, and for the IVR piece, right? You talked a lot about platforms and how important it is to bring the right data in the context of the agent. Is that also something sort of which you can bring more and more to an IVR system itself, so that the customer doesn't have to click to like 10 different menus and do 10 different key presses, but that we can make the IVR system in itself a bit smarter based on automation technology.
That's a great point, and I think, I mean, based on our research for now, what we always recommend today to our customers is think more of your business today. Organize an IVR simply with, hey, you know more or less what your customers are calling you for. Choose 3 or 4 options maximum, and based on really what you know. People will often go for which one, press 1 for sales, press 2 for support, press 3 for general inquiries. If that's not representative of your company, pick the right options rather than actually starting to ask them to say what word they're wanting to talk about, and then you understand, well, basically your AI tool behind it understands half of it, and in the end it still sends you to the same queue. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done on the AI and AI stuff when it comes to voice recognition. And for now, what we do recommend is, hey, we've got a simple IVR. People will reach out to you through phone. That means they want to talk to you. Organize it smartly so that it's going to go to different queues, but don't over-engineer it too much.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense to me as sort of from a consumer perspective. I'm super keen also on hearing Alex's thoughts on that maybe a bit later on, because Andre, you already talked a bit about chat and the peaceful coexistence of chat and phone, and talked about resolution times. It's really interesting, Alex. How do you feel about that from a chat provider perspective?
Well, if you look at live chat, and actually, like Andre just said, don't over-engineer. That is actually what it's about. And organizations, and especially with automation, a lot of organizations try to fix everything, and they think that automation is the way to go. But of course, there's always the human aspect. And that's also, if you look at live chat is considered also a channel where you can have direct contact, just like phone, but the possibility to manage a couple of contacts at the same time from an agent perspective. But it is always, and then you can try to automate this. But what we see is that if you want to automate, look at the content, look at what is the question that the customer has, what is the emotion behind it, and based on that, determine if it's something that a system can do, so a chatbot, as we're talking about, or is this something that really needs to go to a live agent. And actually, if you look at dead-end bots, as we call them, and they create pain, and actually they create unhappy customers. And every once in a while I also get the question, so those chatbots, they're not so very successful, are they? Because if you look at research, then customers say, I was not helped very well by it. Well, actually, the chatbots themselves are not the issue. And the technology is not the issue either. It's really the implementation and the goals that the organization set. When we talk to organizations, many of them say, okay, we want to create a chatbot that can answer every question and can solve any issue that a customer has. But if you look at your own teams, and if you look at your own maybe contact center agents, even they are not able to answer all the questions or solve all the problems. So how do you think that technology is going to do that for you? So in that case, it is very important that you basically go through a couple of steps. And we figured out 5 steps in that regard. First of all is the feasibility scan. And what does this mean? You go through actual conversational data between a customer and your agent. And you do that on the channel that the conversation has taken place on. So don't use, for example, telephony data to create a chatbot on live chat. That's not going to work. Communication is different. The subjects are different that people are talking about. So you need conversational data in the channel. And when you have that conversational data, you can extract what they call in chatbot terms intents. What was the goal of the customer? And based on the goal of the customer, then you can see, okay, what of these conversations, what of these goals could we automate with a chatbot? And then, when you have that, of course, you can start developing the dialogues, and only for those subjects that the chatbot is going to be able to handle. And actually, you train the chatbot, which is also very important. You train the chatbot with actual data. So you train it with real questions from your customers. So you take that from the chat platform and use those to train it. Actually, what we see every once in a while is that they say, okay, well, we take our customer service agents, we take 5 or 6, we'll sit around the table, we ask them, hey, what kind of questions are being asked and how are they being formulated? We can promise you that if you do it like that and you want to build a successful chatbot, it's not going to work. It's going to take you a lot of time, and actually your first implementations will fail. So use real data, and of course then test the chatbot. And one of the things that we also notice is that people think, okay, when I built the chatbot and now I'm done. No, you're not done. It's the same as a real agent. They need training. You need to look at how the conversations are taking place, and based on the real conversations between the chatbot and a customer, you're going to optimize your chatbot. And important in that regard is that when the chatbot is not able to understand the question or not able to answer the question, then you need a seamless transfer to a live agent. And you have to make sure that when it goes to the live agent, that the agent has all the information available to continue in the conversation, so that of course, the customer does not have to start over again. And actually, that is also one of the issues of many of the dead-end chatbots, is that when you get to the end of it and your question was not answered or solved, you have to go to another channel, maybe telephony or maybe email, and then you have to start all over again. And actually, we all know that is that drives disappointment, that drives customers not being satisfied. I would like to go over an actual case. It's within one of the largest e-commerce companies in the Netherlands. And actually, what we liked about them is that they really set a couple of good goals. And one of the goals, and it's the second one on the slide, is improve customer satisfaction. And actually, when we talk to our customers, we tell them, if automation is only focused on being, cost reduction or being more efficient, then please don't start with a chatbot, because you're going to create unhappy customers. Actually, sometimes as a joke, we say, maybe you should, like they just said, take the phone number away, take the email address away. That's the most efficient way to do customer service, because then they can't reach you. But of course, we all know that that's not an option. So it should be about that customer. It should be about that customer experience, and it should be about making the customer more happy. The other part that we see there is that when you implement a chatbot in the right way, it also creates more happy employees. And the reason that it creates more happy employees is that the chatbot can answer the, let's say, more easy questions, or can collect data, like you also can do in an IVR, in telephony. It can collect data like an email address, maybe a postal code, maybe an order number, so that based on that, it might start an RPA, so it goes to another system and collect maybe the order status, which we also do for a large distributing organization. I'm not allowed to say the name. And if you collected the data, it can transfer it to a live agent, and the live agent can take over from there. And actually what happens then is that the time that a customer spends with the live agent gets reduced substantially. But still, the agent can add emotion, can add the human touch to it. And actually, that then leads to higher NPS. And I'm only going to the last part of it. What we saw, the results, is that by introducing a chatbot at this e-commerce company, it reduced the human conversations by 4.4%, which maybe it doesn't sound a lot, but if you have millions of conversations, and this was the starting point back then, that is substantial. It also improved productivity with 16.5%. So these are, of course, great numbers for the financial department. Actually, the customer service department was most satisfied about the fact that NPS got improved by 10%. So after introducing a chatbot and putting that into the conversation, NPS went up with 10%. And the wonderful part was when a customer was helped by a chatbot in combination with an agent, so the chatbot collecting the relevant data and the agent finishing up, that even resulted in an even higher NPS and had the best results. So you can implement successful chatbots, but you have to do it and have to have a smart plan.
I feel this is, you mentioned so many brilliant things. I really love that approach of being like customer first and thinking about what is the experience I want to create, right? And then going back and constantly measuring that. And I think this is also Felix can talk about in a bit, sort of how can I use automations to do that consistently across the customer journey, right? Getting that feedback and seeing what works, what doesn't work, and then react based on that. And I think this, what you mentioned about the hybrid solution between chatbot and human, right? This is also like looping that back to what Andre said before, right? I think like you gathering that context, for example, right? And make that nice for the customer. And then you're deciding what is the right channel to take care here, right? Is that, for example, a handover to an agent, or maybe could a phone call actually address this a little bit faster? Could I have a faster resolution time here? Or do I just create a ticket because it's not that urgent, right?
Yeah, so basically, if you look in the channel in live chat and having a chatbot, a customer might not even know that the chatbot was in there and reading the question, because if it sees, hey, this is something that really needs to be answered by a live agent, it can just leave it and immediately let it be handled by a live person, or maybe, like I explained before, give information where to find the solution, or even say, okay, I'm going to create a ticket for you and we'll get back to you later. And do you have a preference in channel? Maybe can we call you or email you the solution?
One thing that you mentioned, Alex, and I could not agree more, is, and it's true for the audience, maybe it's good to hear this. When you go into those kind of projects, you need to get your data right first, and that's sometimes something companies leave a bit on the side, especially when they are in hyper growth, or they lost a bit of control here, and nobody really knows like which data points means what, because this field was changed here, and so first you need to understand really well what your data means, which data point means what, before implementing those kind of projects.
Yeah, if I may just add one thing to that, because it's totally correct. Actually, we do not implement any chatbots with our customers if we don't have access to the right data with them. And if it's on a channel like live chat and they don't do live chat yet, and they say, I want a chatbot and live chat, then we say, okay, first go do live chat with live agents, collect data, then we are going to analyze it, and then we're going to advise you on how the chatbot could be implemented best. Actually, we have real cases where organizations walked in our office and said, we need a chatbot and it's going to do X. And eventually, after 4 weeks of collecting data, we decided together with them to build I or Y, because X was really not going to be solving. So it's correct. Data is the key.
And I think this is a perfect key word actually for Morgan and PieSync, right? Because what I see is as you have a more complete customer journey, right? You're just using more and more tools. Yes, you have a CRM system, but maybe you have a help desk from a different provider. You have a phone solution, you have a chatbot solution. So how do you actually ensure that that data stays consistent, right? And that you have actually a source of truth and not disparaging data sources. Can you walk us through that a bit?
Yeah, indeed, it's something we hear all the time. That customers are trying to create a better customer experience, and they're buying all these different tools. They're buying chats, they're buying VoIPs, surveys, all the people that are here in this panel, it makes sense, right? You want to have the best customer experience, and you want to do it in the best way possible, using technology and a hybrid model with people, of course, as well. So this is a survey that was done, in 2018 now, but it was indeed one of the most challenging things that customers and businesses were having, was getting all those tools to sync up and sync up in a way that was real time and efficient, and like was mentioned earlier with the fields, where are these data points going, and how can this help us? So it's definitely a challenge that lots of organizations are seeing, whether they're a SaaS or they're a bowl.com or whatnot. So that's indeed the thing that PieSync is trying to solve. We offer a two-way real-time contact and company sync. So this is one of the most important data points, is having those basic information up to date and real time. And a lot of time it's coming in from different channels, but not only from different channels, but from different divisions. So maybe customer success is talking to someone, sales, marketing, they're all supposed to be serving customer, and if all that data is in different silos, basically, then you're not getting that 360 degree of the customer, and it becomes quickly a mess, and it looks a bit like this. So with PieSync, the idea is really to help sync everything up with any kind of integration, as mentioned earlier, with open APIs. This is always the goal, right? Is how do we make sure that the data is in sync and real time. And for us, two-way, I think, is quite important as well, because there are different data points coming in at different times from different people. There are things such as, someone unsubscribes, and then they're still getting information that's not a good customer experience, of course. There's whole rules about this now, right? So I really see the main customer journey is a synced system in the background is providing a happy customer, because it should be seamless. And I think everyone is indeed trying to make it that way, and you're trying to improve. But if the applications aren't either well integrated through native APIs, then you need to look at third-party integration systems, and you want to do it in such a way that's really easy and affordable, and providing a good experience. A lot of times, you have people with this. I know I sometimes have multiple tabs opened at one time. The idea of the one window test is something that a lot of people have been talking about. So instead of having 10 tabs and 10 windows and 10 systems opened up, and a customer success manager swiveling his chair back and forth and trying to open a tab to find the information. How nice would it be is if you are in your source of truth, whether that's your CRM or your customer success tool. Every department has a different source of truth. So you have to make it so that the tool that they know and they're comfortable with, they can stay in there, and all the other tools are quickly in real time syncing back and forth 2 ways, so you don't have to have all these tabs open, is kind of the idea. So I think if it's a good customer experience for the agents, for the success person, then it's also going to be reflected to the end user, and they're going to have a good customer experience, because they're not wasting time, like was pointed out in that first slide, 75% just collecting contact data. I mean, come on, that's so annoying and frustrating when you've told it 100 times before, even if you told it to maybe sales instead of customer success, or to marketing and said, you shouldn't have to do that, right? So I think there are different levels of customer experience also. There's the basic level. There's also the level below basic where you're pissing people off. Excuse my terminology there. And then there's the delighting, right? So I had someone call me the other day, or excuse me, I called them the other day, and they answered the phone. Hi, Morgan. It's so silly, but to hear your name when you're calling someone, when it's a business, that makes a huge difference. Maybe it's a little ego thing, I don't know, but it was really nice to have that experience. That's a bit of an example of a delight. I mean, it's something so simple, but I think a lot of companies, even though they want to do it and they have all these tools in place, they're missing the ability to do it if the tools aren't well synced up in a two-way real-time way that's easy and affordable and isn't breaking every time an API changes or something like this.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel this is also where sort of what Alex also mentioned about humans and bots coming together, right? I think in a way, humans are almost too smart doing these, right? You can actually tell a service rep, okay, these are your 3 different tools. You have to look up, you have to use that search key here. Then you have to identify the right customer. And I mean, people will somehow figure this out, right? It will cost them a lot of time, but somehow they will make it work, even if it's a broken process. But once you get to that level of, for example, I want to introduce a chatbot and I now need a good source of truth, right? And thinking about how can I link these different systems, right? For example, using PySync as a glue between like these different SaaS applications, that benefits the humans as well who are in the loop, right? And who get that context, like Andrea was saying like earlier, sort of that, yeah, you know exactly who's calling, you know what this is about, and then you can address it really quickly and you can create that personal interaction, which sort of, if I'm struggling between like this, I love this slide with the send help, if I need to struggle, okay, which one was a tab where I have that information, right? I maybe, if I have it all there and I say, hey, it's your birthday today, right? And that really, I think this is where people say, wow, like, that is a brand, a company I want to interact with on a continuous basis.
Yeah, to add to this, I mean, I agree 100%, and it's true. I think sometimes when we talk about customer experience, Morgan, you mentioned it, we only look at the experience of actually our customers, but if we actually make the experience for our agents way more seamless, way more natural, and we give them the information, for them, the anxious moment of receiving a call and potentially having an angry customer, this is all going to go down, and this going to bring them the confidence that they actually need to solve the customer's issue the right way, and then therefore the customer experience will increase. So this is all linked in the end.
It's a ripple effect, right? If you set your customer success agents up for success and let their job be less stressy and they're happier, yeah, you can hear a smile on a phone call, right? You can hear someone, you can hear those emotions. So yeah, if they're having a good day, then they can obviously ripple that over, and yeah, then the customer who's maybe frustrated before he even picks up the phone, yeah, you can already have a better conversation. And that's indeed the idea of ramping up your team as quickly as possible and making sure that learning curve is as low as possible. If somebody knows one tool and they know it really well, yeah, don't waste time at teaching them all the other tools. Make sure that that tool that they're comfortable in is synced up, right? So they don't have to go through a million tabs or learn a totally new system. I mean, that also takes time, of course, and that's yeah, you know, it's when you talk to an agent who has just been hired and or has been at the company for 10 years and now all of a sudden he has a new tool, he feels like he's a brand new, or she's a brand new hire again, because you're having that learning curve of every tool is a bit different, right? Where buttons are or where fields are or whatnot. So I think that's definitely key.
Yeah, that's where also the UX and the UI of your tools that are being built recently are like now super important. You don't want to be giving a tool that looks like it was built in the 20th century, whereas your agents have been using on their smartphone just before arriving at the office some of the best UX and UI. They're coming at the office expecting to use a tool that actually is going to be nice and nice to use, and that's also has an impact. Yep.
Yeah, and that design has direct correlation with their KPIs, right? So
Yep.
if they're I mean, a lot of customers are looking for a quick resolution time, and the customer success teams are being graded on their KPIs of resolution time. So if they're wasting time asking contact data, or they're wasting time trying to find the right tab or the right tool to use, this is also not good for anyone. So however you can sync that up is always a good thing, and you'll get a better return on your investment, and you'll see it in the customer's NPS, I hope. But I guess that's the next thing we'll talk about with surveys and NPS, right?
Yeah, I think this is what Felix can probably tell us a bit more about, sort of, right, how can I actually ensure measuring that customer satisfaction across the customer journey. It has an impact, right? Like whatever you've done, implementing a chatbot, using a call to giving contextual phone calls, linking everything. Sort of the customer is a judge of how well have you done that, right? And I think getting that feedback in is super key in creating better experiences. What Alex was talking about, right? I want to have that loop where I build, I get feedback, and then I improve it. It's not done after implementing anything. This is just the start of any project, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. So great insights already. I'm happy to take over now. So that's actually very important to measure how good we're doing when it comes to customer experience. And what we see is that all companies are losing way too many customers and often don't really know why. Having the data in place is definitely one of the most crucial points here, but also not only knowing what can be improved, but actually improve it and making this a process and automate all of this. And if you imagine that if you only lose 6% of your customers every month, then after 1 year, 50% of your customer base is just gone and lost. And to get rid of such high churn numbers, we have to implement like a framework that's helping us to get closer to the customer, to understand them at every single point on the customer or in the customer journey, and then derive the right actions out of the feedback you get. And one very great tool is NPS. I heard it a few times during the webinar already, and I'm super happy about it because it's the global standard to measure your customer loyalty. And for the ones who don't know it, you're asking the same question every time. How likely are you to recommend a product or a process step or an experience to a friend or a colleague on a scale from 0 to 10? And then asking for a free text field, please tell us why you've chosen this or that score. And what a lot of companies are doing already is that they send out surveys once a quarter or once a week. Some of them are analyzing the comments and building up Excel models, but only a very few are really acting on this feedback and especially going back to the customer and solving the problem for them. So what we see more often is that instead of acting proactively on feedback, we see that the customers are going to the customer service, and we have too many complaint cases. So how can we implement a successful NPS? And here it's super crucial that we cover every single point of the customer journey. And by doing this, we can increase the response rates up to 40%. So from 4 of 10 customers, you will receive feedback if they are happy or not in this step of the customer journey. and you will find out why. This can be during the discovery phase or after the purchase, and in after sales processes until the customer service. And one touch point could be that if someone is in a live chat or in the chatbot, that after completing the live chat or chatbot interaction, you can ask for NPS, and then asking for the free text comment, analyze what you've got, like what feedback you've received, and then close the loop by pushing this information back to the customer service if it was a bad rating, so that actually the customer service rep can go back to the customer and surprise them. Because when you give feedback somewhere, you don't really expect a response. And this is a great opportunity for surprising the customer by going back to them proactively, and they don't have the need to go to the customer service by themselves. Once we've getting like 40% responses, this will end in a lot of feedback that we receive. So you definitely need some processes to identify the insights out of all of those free text comments. Here's one example, and what happens very often is that a lot of different topics pop up in one feedback. And by analyzing this automatically, you are able to get out actionable analytics and insights to prioritize your projects based on the voice of the customer. And by doing this and making this a habit, you can improve every single point of your journey and create really great and seamless experiences. And also look for the right tech stack that can support you to create those great those experiences.
I feel this is something which is only growing in importance, right? Because I feel sort of that SaaS software, right, that was always subscription based, and you're really interested in seeing how can you reduce churn. But I think we now really live in an economy where more and more companies, more and more industries are moving towards a subscription based revenue model, right? Where you actually need to, where churn, having that sort of leaky bucket, right, where you're losing customers every single month, that's a really big risk to your business, right? Where you need to go in and actually measure that feedback and improve, because otherwise you're not going to have financial success as a company anymore, right? Because you have these repeated interactions with customers.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why it's very important to ask for feedback transactionally, and not and not like only once a quarter or once a year, but after every interaction with the customer at every single touch point of the journey. Because if there are happening gaps, then you are able to react on it very, very fast. And what we've seen here is that if you are able to push this data that you collect with your surveys to, for example, the customer service team, and open tickets for your detractors with a very high customer lifetime value, and then go back to them in 24 hours, you are it's very likely that you win them back before they actually churn. And a lot of customers increase their repurchase rates by more than 50% by only implementing this process. And this also will help your customer service team to really focus on the churning customers, and are able to surprise them with win-back calls or email communication.
Yeah, this is it's really, really interesting to see this. And I feel this is also, right, this is then all, it goes all back to what we discussed before about, like, I have all these different systems, right? I somehow want to synchronize the data, and ultimately I want to use that sort of to engage with customers, right? Whether that's through a chat or through a phone call. Ultimately, it's really about how can I improve the experience. And even if I even if I had an issue yesterday, right? If I quickly figure out what did I do wrong and then get in touch with the customer, there's still the possibility to sort of salvage the situation and turn it around, right?
I see that a lot. Some of the most angry customers, if you can indeed reach out to them and try to solve their problem, these are like the most vocal people in general. So even though they're really mad, you can, if you take the time to get their feedback in a quick manner and then respond on it quickly, they actually become their biggest champions almost. Like they like giving feedback, whether that's positive or negative. It's not they don't care necessarily. So changing their perspective and making them turning them from a hater to a lover of your company is really great. And I think something we see a lot with our partners, and even with PieSync, whenever we get a negative review or something like this, we always try to be fast to find out why, what happened, and how can we best communicate with them, whether that's picking up the phone or sending them a chat message or whatnot. So and a lot of times they become such promoters after the fact. So
well, actually, there's a lot of research on customer satisfaction, also in relation to if someone when everything always goes right, they have a certain level of satisfaction. But if something goes wrong and you fix it in a good way, in a proper manner, the satisfaction and the lifetime value becomes a lot higher. They become, let's say, your loyal customers. Actually, one thing, and that's more from a social media point of view, is that what I would like to add is, don't forget about your positive customers. Don't forget about the ones that are already happy with you and share positive information with them. You also have to pay attention to them, because if you're not paying attention to them, then they might stop sharing that information. So it's also, a lot of organizations think we need to focus on the ones that are not happy. Well, you also need to focus on the ones that are happy, and actually they can help you improve your business even more.
Yeah, you rather buy from somebody else telling you about a product than the company telling the product is great, right? So indeed, those are the best salespeople. A lot of times are the good reviews and the good customers. So make sure you indeed spend time and thank them in a proper way.
and like very, very often on average, you have more than 60% of promoters, and you can easily invite them for product interviews to improve your products, or invite them to a refer a friend program and automate this process as well. So great use cases. Thanks, Alex.
Yeah. So maybe I think we got a really good overview about like different steps in a customer journey. What are some of the things you can automate? How customer experience should play a role in each of these steps. I hope this was insightful for the participants in this webinar so far. And I would now take the chance to sort of open the floor up for questions and move into the Q&A section of the webinar. So you can just type your questions in the comments on Zoom. Whatever we don't have, like we have like 5 to 10 minutes left. If we don't manage to answer your question, we'll get back to you via email. All right, so I'll just take some time and see what comes in terms of questions, and then we can pick one or two and start going. Maybe while we're waiting, one thing I'm always interested in, keen on learning is, well, in a webinar, well, we have all these slides to present nice stuff, but how does the reality look? So maybe I would give that question to my other panelists. Really, when you honestly rate sort of how is it going in your company, maybe something which goes really well or something where you say transparently, we could do better. I'm really interested in hearing that. And maybe I kick off with Freshworks. I think we're doing quite well because we're using a lot of our own tools, and they are, of course, well synchronized. But then still have a lot of work to do when it comes, like we work still a lot with spreadsheets for some stuff, we exports, right? And you have data in different systems and you want to collate that. I think on the automation part, we can still do better. And what we see in our business is the boundaries between support and sales and customer success, all of that is getting very fuzzy, right? Because also what we talked about here, support, like when you have happy customers, they're good advocates. If you have, for example, a chat, they might start that with a support query, but it could quickly turn into a discussion on, hey, I didn't know you guys were doing this. And then converting that. And I think this is really where you need skilled people in the different areas of your business, but you also need to empower them with the right contextual information. And while we're on a constant journey to improve that, I think we can still do a little better in that. But really keen also on hearing how does it work in other companies.
Yeah, I would jump on something that Felix mentioned, which I think resonated a lot when it comes to what Zenloop does. And I remember maybe 2.5 years ago, we decided to do, basically we stopped everybody, the whole teams, and we decided to do kind of like a 1-week NPS war. And I think if we did this, that basically meant we asked all of the company to call all of our NPS, basically any NPS below 9, and just call them and try and see why they actually put a grade under 9, sorry. And I think then, as Felix mentioned, you can start to automate this much better by having actually all of those, well, either neutral or negative NPS grades put in a ticket in your help desk. And at the time we didn't have this, so we just did it kind of like the manual way, just pulled down a list of all those NPS grades and called all of them. And it was a nice moment somehow, but maybe not very scalable.
So one thing we are doing to, like, sometimes you're working in your own environment all the time, and then you forget to bring the customer back into the discussion as well. I know that Amazon is always having like one free seat in the room, and this free seat is representing the customer, and always one seat stays free. I really like this picture, and what we are doing to bring the customer into the office is that we call them live feeds, like big screens on the walls for every single team, and there we are showing the live NPS feedback. So we are asking for NPS feedback along our journey and for the product and so on as well, and showing this feedback on the screen, on the wall in real time, so that we start to discuss whenever a detractor or promoter pops up, and then take this into internal discussions and meeting and see what we can improve to make the lives of our customers a little bit better. And it's helping a lot to have this visible every single day.
Well, if I can add to that, it's the same over here. We have a big screen actually, and it's visible also for our customers when they walk into our office, and there you can see our NPS. We measure more than only that. We also measure customer satisfaction score, because NPS is really about would I recommend you, but of course customer satisfaction exists of more than that. But yes, it is available to everybody. We have KPIs on that are being discussed every week in the management team. And if you look at our brand promise is focused on effortless engagement. So everything that is not showing effortless engagement, if it's in our solution or if it's in doing business with us in the sales part, or even in our financial department, getting your invoice, or maybe having to credit an invoice, all of that, of course, is measured and has to be improved continuously. And that's our main focus. And that doesn't mean that we don't have anything to improve. We have something to improve every day. But I think if you think that you don't have to improve anything, then you should look harder.
True, very true. I have one more question here. Just looking at the time, I think we have just time for one more question, which I like, because we have different channels here represented, right? Aircall for phone, OB for one for chat and chatbots. Freshdesk has a ticketing system. So how do you actually create a consistent experience? We talked a lot about like making it effortless, right? And bringing all that data together. But how can you actually create a consistent experience as well for customers when you're offering that many different channels and you have so many different tools in there? Someone wants to take that one up?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you well.
You mentioned it earlier about being the glue between the different applications. That's indeed what PySync is really trying to do. So if you're using Freshdesk and Aircall, for example, making sure those contacts are in sync. So yeah, if there is also a native integration, that can even be more robust, for example. I think that customer journey has to be, even if you're having a ton of different tools in the background, the customer shouldn't know that, right? So I think the main thing is using the native integrations, seeing how you can make them even more robust, making sure if there is an open API, seeing if that's something that you can use, or if not, if there's a third party out there that's doing trigger action automation, or doing contact syncing or things like this. And a lot of times it's not one or the other. I get that question a lot, like if I have, for example, a trigger-based tool like Zapier or Automate or Tray or something like this, and there's a native and there's PySync, can I use all three, and does that make sense? And actually in some cases it does, because the native is maybe only one way or only doing certain data points. So you need to first make sure everything's contact-wise is in sync. Then you may make the native integration even more relevant and robust. Or there may be some things that are missing where you need to zap or trigger-based something as well. So I think you have to look at the use case. Every use case is different. And some things one way is okay, and other things you need that two-way communication. So the idea of creating the perfect SaaS stack is something that we're seeing more and more happening these days because of great open APIs and ecosystems and integration options, whether it's native or third party or a combination of the two or three.
Yep, fully agree. And I think this is also a great sort of summary for that webinar as a whole, right? I hope we could really, for me, the main takeaway is the platform aspect of everything, right? If you're like getting flexible tools which you can integrate nicely with others, you can create that consistent customer journey, right? But it really needs to start from a customer perspective, going in, seeing what are the different touch points with the company, and then going and seeing how can you design an experience. And then the second step is bringing automation in there, like you're saying, right, to create consistent experiences, and also to automate and bring that scalability in, where I think Alex has shared a really nice example with ball.com on this one.
It's the best of breed, right? You're really creating that best of breed experience internally, and then you're seeing it externally. Hopefully the customer is, of course.
And in the end, you hopefully see that reflected in the NPS.
Yeah.
Talked about. Well, I had a great time with you. Thanks all for doing that. For all the panelists, I hope the people who dialed into this webinar found it useful. Again, if you've put a question, we'll make sure to answer it via email, so we didn't have that much time to answer all the different questions. But yeah, please reach out to us. We'll get back to you, and wish you all a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thanks.